Have you ever noticed that respect is not lost all at once? No one wakes up on any given day and discovers that they are no longer taken seriously out of nowhere. What happens, in fact, is a silent process. Small concessions, seemingly harmless attitudes, choices that you think no one noticed. Until one day the bill arrives. And the worst, there is no prior notice. Many people believe that respect is earned on the basis of shouting, imposition, or the image of strength. But the truth is much harsher and liberating at the same time. Respect is not demanded, it is cultivated. And those who understand this begin to realize that their dignity is in every detail, in how they react in simple situations, in the firmness they transmit even in silence. Stoicism had taught this for centuries. Marcus Aurelius, Epictetus, and Seneca showed that true authority is not in those who speak louder, but in those who live according to their principles. Your posture is your signature. Respect is born from the coherence between what you say and what you do, and today you will discover the 7 silent behaviors that destroy your respect without you realizing it. If you want to continue learning how to reclaim your authority and live more steadily, subscribe to the channel right now, because what you see can completely change the way people look at you. Respect is not usually snatched away like thunder that suddenly explodes. It goes away little by little, like water that runs between your fingers. You don't even realize it, but every time you give up a value, every time you shut up when you should be taking a stand, a small slice of respect disappears. It's as if you were dismantling your own presence without noticing. Imagine someone who constantly accepts offensive jokes just to avoid conflict. At first it seems insignificant, but after a while, that firm image turns into someone who accepts everything. Others learn that they can push boundaries without consequences. And with each concession, that person's authority dissolves like ice in a hot glass. Marcus Aurelius already said that life is made of repeated choices. If you repeat acts of weakness, you create the image of someone fragile. Respect is not lost in a single gesture, but in an accumulation of small acts that shape the way the world sees you. It's like an inverted construction, brick by brick. You knock the house off your credibility yourself. The good news is that the opposite is also true. Respect can be rebuilt into small daily choices, saying no when necessary, keeping your word, acting firmly even in the details. These are seemingly simple attitudes, but they accumulate until their presence is noticed again. Respect is like a reputation. It takes time to be earned, but it can be lost in silence. The question is whether you will let it continue. Many people still fall into the trap of believing that respect can be demanded, as if it were an automatic right. But it doesn't work like that. The more someone shouts, "Respect me," the less authority they transmit. True respect is born from example, from the way you conduct your life, not from the pressure you put on others. Think of a team leader who tries to command respect for the position, but lives late, says one thing and does another. He may have formal authority, but real respect dissolves because his conduct does not support the position. Now compare this with someone simple, who fulfills what he promises and acts with coherence. Without having to raise their voice, this person naturally attracts respect. Epictetus said that it doesn't matter what others say about you, but who you become through your actions. That's the secret. Respect is a consequence, not an objective. The more you focus on acting with dignity and firmness, the more people around you come to see your stance as something solid and reliable. If you want respect, stop begging him. Start growing it in silence, like planting seeds. At first, it may seem like nothing changes, but over time, that root strengthens and grows. And when you least expect it, respect will be there, solid, deep, unshakable. Not because you asked for it, but because you built it. The Stoics had already realized something that many still ignore. Respect is not earned in imposition, but in silent integrity. Marcus Aurelius, emperor and philosopher, ruled with the firmness of one who knew that his personal conduct spoke louder than any decree. He showed that true authority is not in sharp words, but in the life you demonstrate every day. Seneca stressed that the dignity of a man does not depend on public opinion, but on how he stands firm in the face of adversity. For him, respect is born of coherence. There is no point in preaching wisdom if your attitudes reveal weakness. When you live what you believe in, you transmit a silent strength that no one can ignore. Epictetus, who began his life as a slave, taught that no one can take away your dignity but yourself. He said that freedom and respect are linked to your ability not to be enslaved by external opinions. And this is still current. The less you let yourself be carried away by the expectations of others, the more solid your respect becomes. To take Stoic philosophy as a guide is to understand that respect is the result of consistent choices. It's acting calm even under pressure. It's standing firm even when everyone expects you to break. Basically, it is to realize that authority is not shouted, it is demonstrated. And it is precisely this discreet presence that attracts true respect. One of the most common mistakes that erode respect is the habit of justifying oneself all the time. It seems harmless, but every time you try to over-explain your decisions, you convey insecurity. It's as if to say, I don't trust my own choice, so I need to convince you that I did the right thing. This excess of explanations undermines the firmness of his stance. Imagine someone who, upon arriving a few minutes late, spends 5 minutes apologizing, making up unnecessary details, trying to appear impeccable. The problem is not to admit the mistake, that's healthy, but to turn each slip into a spectacle of justifications. Over time, people stop seeing maturity and start to see fragility. Seneca already said that we don't need to prove anything to anyone but ourselves. Those who justify themselves too much without realizing it put their dignity in the hands of the other. Respect is born when you are direct, objective, and clear. Admitting a mistake doesn't require drama. Making a decision doesn't need a dictionary of excuses. The practice is simple. The next time you feel like justifying yourself in excess, take a deep breath and summarize it in a short sentence. I was late, thank you for waiting is stronger than a monologue of apology. This posture conveys firmness, shows that you recognize your limits without giving up dignity. And curiously, it is in the silence of simplicity that respect grows. Few things wear down someone's image as much as the habit of complaining all the time. Those who live pointing out problems convey the idea that they are always powerless in the face of life. Complaining may seem like an outlet, but in practice, it is a certificate of weakness. Over time, the people around them stop taking seriously those who only know how to murmur. Imagine that coworker who, in any conversation, always has a complaint ready about the weather, the boss, politics, food, traffic. Gradually, his presence becomes synonymous with weight. Instead of respect, it inspires fatigue. People prefer to keep their distance because they know that each encounter will be a rain of complaints. The Stoics already taught that it makes no sense to spend energy on what is not under our control. Marcus Aurelius repeated to himself, "If it is in my hands, I act. If it is not, I accept." Complaining about uncontrollable things doesn't change anything. It only reinforces your image of powerlessness. And that's where respect slips through your fingers. Want a hands-on exercise? The next time you feel like complaining, turn the phrase into action or silence. Instead of, "It's too hot," say, "I'll open the window," or just shut up. This simple exchange changes his attitude towards life. And those who see someone who acts instead of complaining starts to see strength. And that's what generates respect. One of the quickest ways to lose respect is to try to please everyone. It seems like an attitude of kindness, but in practice it reveals insecurity and lack of identity. When every external opinion carries more weight than your own voice, you begin to mold yourself to fit other people's expectations. And inevitably, it loses its essence in the process. Think of someone who accepts every invitation, every task, every request, even when they don't have the time or energy. At first it may even seem helpful. But after a while, people realize he doesn't say no to anything, and this does not generate respect, but enjoyment. Whoever tries to be everything to everyone ends up being nothing to himself. Epictetus reminded us that living according to others is slavery. True respect comes from those who are clear about what they are and what they are not, from those who know how to set limits. Saying no may seem harsh at the moment, but that's precisely what shows firmness. It is like drawing an invisible line that others learn to recognize. Practice starting small. Refuse something simple, like a favor you really can't fulfill. At first you may blame, but soon you will realize that no one respects those who betray themselves to please. Respect grows when you assume your authenticity, even if it displeases some. After all, as Seneca said, pleasing everyone is impossible, but losing oneself is unforgivable. Few attitudes destroy respect as much as begging for attention. When someone constantly needs to be seen, remembered, or approved, it sends the message that they don't trust their own worth. The problem is that the more recognition is implored, the less it comes. It's like trying to hold water with your hands open. The more force you put in, the faster it escapes. Think about those who are always checking messages, demanding an immediate response, or getting annoyed for not being at the center of the conversation. In the eyes of others, this attitude sounds desperate. Instead of generating respect, it creates discomfort. People start to avoid it because they realize that any silence will be interpreted as rejection. Marcus Aurelius said that a worthy man is sufficient in himself. And that's where the key lies. Those who don't need to beg for attention transmit naturalness and confidence. True attention is not asked for, it is attracted. It comes when you act with purpose, when you have a firm presence and don't depend on the gaze of others to feel valid. A practical exercise is to reverse the game. Instead of seeking attention, offer value. Share something useful, really listen, be present. This creates real connections, without the anxiety of being noticed at all costs. Those who live without begging for attention show that they know their own worth. And inevitably, this posture is respected. Those who talk too much without realizing it end up emptying the weight of their own words. The excess of explanations, stories, and opinions creates the feeling that everything is urgent, but nothing is important. Respect is also born of silence. When someone only spouts words, it conveys anxiety. When you choose to speak less, each sentence gains authority. Imagine a meeting where one person monopolizes the conversation, trying to prove knowledge. At first, it may even hold attention, but it soon becomes tiring. On the other hand, those who speak little, objectively and clearly, achieve silence in the room. This happens because people know that when that person opens their mouth, it's worth listening. Seneca warned that words are like coins. When used in excess, they lose value. The Stoic understands that silence is a form of power. Not responding immediately, not filling each pause with words, is a sign of self-control. Those who master silence show that they do not need to convince, because their presence already communicates what is necessary. Want to practice? In the next conversation, count to 3 before responding. Evaluate whether what you're going to say really adds up. Gradually, you will notice that your lines become stronger and more remembered. After all, as Epictetus said, we have 2 ears and 1 mouth. Perhaps it is because we need to listen more than we speak. There is a big difference between being flexible and being someone who never takes a stand. When you give in on everything, your word loses weight. Gradually, people realize that it is enough to insist a little for you to change your mind. And respect, which should be built on firmness, is crumbling like sand carried by the wind. Think of that friend who always accepts the restaurant, movie or plan that the group chooses, even if they don't like it. At first it may seem cool, but after a while no one asks his opinion anymore. He becomes invisible because everyone already knows that in the end he will agree to anything. This is exactly how respect disappears, in the absence of limits. Marcus Aurelius reminded us that living according to reason means knowing how far to go. Giving in to everything is not kindness, it is cowardice in disguise. Respect is born when you demonstrate that you have principles that you don't give up, even if it bothers you. Those who know how to say no calmly show that they have a firm north. A simple exercise is to start with the details. Choose something small that you really don't want to give in on and hold your position without aggressiveness. Over time, this strengthens your voice and rebuilds your authority. Respect is not in always agreeing, but in showing that your word has borders. One of the clearest signs of loss of respect is when the person avoids all kinds of discomfort. Whether it's a difficult conversation, a risky decision, or a necessary confrontation, running away from these moments conveys cowardice. The problem is that those who flee today lose credibility tomorrow. In the eyes of others, it is clear, if you squeeze, he retreats. Imagine a leader who never faces conflicts in the team, always pushes problems under the rug. At first it seems peaceful, but soon everyone realizes that his authority is fragile, because he can't stand pressure. Respect dissolves precisely there, when firmness is replaced by evasion. The Stoics saw discomfort as training the soul. Epictetus said that adversity reveals who we really are. Marcus Aurelius reminded us that fire tastes gold. Those who face discomfort grow in authority, because it shows that they do not depend on ideal scenarios to act. Running away from discomfort, on the other hand, is like giving up your dignity on a platter. Want to start changing? Face small discomforts. Say what you think in a simple situation. Accept criticism without justifying yourself. Be silent in the face of a provocation. These exercises shape character and convey firmness. In the end, respect always follows those who have the courage to face what others avoid. The mistake of many people is to believe that respect comes from the external gaze. But the truth is that it starts within you. Those who do not respect themselves will hardly be respected. It's the way you treat yourself, how you position yourself, how you honor your own word that sets the tone for how the world will look at you. Think of someone who treats themselves carelessly. They are always criticizing themselves. They don't value their own time. They accept anything. Gradually, this person transmits to the world that he has no value, and the world responds in kind. Respect, deep down, is a reflection. What you project inwards is mirrored outwards. Marcus Aurelius taught that the dignity of man lies in remaining upright even when no one sees. It's this type of posture that generates solid respect, coherence between what you think, feel, and do. When there is internal harmony, it is not necessary to demand anything from others. Respect comes naturally. Practice this on a daily basis. Honor commitments to yourself. Treat your body and mind as something valuable. Defend your principles even in silence. Respect is not born from applause, but from the peace of knowing that you are aligned with who you really are. And when that happens, no one can ignore his presence. Now that you have gone through each of these behaviors, I want you to reflect. How many of them are present, even in a subtle way, in your daily life? Respect is not a title that someone grants. It is a reflection of the way you position yourself in front of the world. And every little thing can be strengthening or destroying your authority without you realizing it. Think about the next choices you will make. Will you continue to give in to be accepted, complaining about what you do not control, or will you cultivate dignity in silence? Will you wait for others to recognize your worth, or will you begin to live so steadfast that no one can ignore it? The decision is yours. The respect you desire is already there, waiting for you to feed it with daily actions. And perhaps the most important question is, when someone looks back on their life tomorrow, what will they see? Someone who asks for respect, or someone who naturally inspires them? If this message made sense to you, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. Here you will find more content that will challenge your mind, strengthen your posture, and transform your worldview. The next step to earning respect starts now.